Okay, on these next few right here, we're going to be dealing with right triangles with altitudes. When you have this specifically, all the different triangles are going to be proportional to one another. Some teachers will teach you to kind of split them apart and then kind of turn them around and then figure out what sides match up. But I got a couple of little tricks that help with that, little tricks and little gimmicky things that work out. One thing I want to emphasize here is these problems will be different than 43 with the angle bisector. When you have an angle bisector, you can go and just set the sides proportional to one another. When you have a right triangle with altitudes, this will be a little bit more involved. So here's my little tricks here, how to find, maybe X and Y here. So this big overall right triangle right there, we have those two sides. You have the combination of 15 and 20 right there, so you can say 35. So this would be 35 to X, and then that'll be proportional to this kind of medium triangle right here, X to 20. And I call this boomerang. It's kind of like a boomerang. Like when you throw a boomerang, you kind of go towards one direction and then it comes back to you a little bit. So that's my little trick there of figuring out how to set that up. So you do that with boomerang. You always start with the hypotenuse, the longest side. So that right there, the 35, the X, and then X to 20 right there. So anyways, we'll go and get this here. This would be X squared. 35 times 20. Let me grab my calculator there. It's a little big. That comes out to 700. And then we're going to go ahead and square root both sides. Now, I think on your test, there will be one where you need to get the decimal. So you would just, on the ones that say round or approximate your answers, you would just type in square root of 700. Sometimes they're going to say put it in simplest radical form. So we'll need to simplify 700. So we could go like this here. You could say that's 7 and 100. And then you can actually break down 100 to 10 and 10. You could technically break down those 10s, but we're looking for pairs, and I see a pair of 10s. So I'm going to put this as 10 and then square root of 7 for X right there. Okay, now if they wanted the decimal, grab a calculator. If you want a decimal there for that, you could have just done square root of 700, and that was approximately 26.46, I guess, after you round. So if you need a decimal, there's your decimal answer. Most of the times we're going to ask you for simplest radical form right there. So that would usually be good there. Now, if you want to go find Y, you're actually going to do the same thing, just the other direction. So I'm going to erase my lines here for a second. We'll do Y right here. We'll do 35 to Y. So it's that big side. It's always a hypotenuse of the large triangle. And then to one of the legs, and then you'll do the hypotenuse of the small triangle to that leg right there. So that's 35 to Y, and then come back here, Y to 15. So, it's a geometric mean right there. So that'll be Y squared, 35 times 15 right there. That's going to be 525. I don't think that's quite a perfect square there, so I'll break it down. Got to square root both sides there. So then now we'll break it down. So if you're having trouble finding numbers that multiply to 325, use the numbers that you multiplied in the first place, 35 and 15 right there. And then 15 you can go, that's a 3 and 5, and 35 here you can go, that's 7 and 5. So you got a pair of 5s. So we'll write 5, and then the 7 and the 3 you'll multiply back together, and then we'll say that's 5 square root of 21. And then you can go and do square root of 525 for the decimal. That's roughly 22.91 right there. So that'll be it there on number 44. Okay, so that's a boomerang. That's on both of those there when you're finding those outside legs there. On number 45 here, when you're finding the altitude of the right triangle right here, this uses another little technique here. I call it heartbeat. And the heartbeat here is you go the 6 to X on this triangle here is going to match with the X to 8 on the other triangle. So I call it a heartbeat because it kind of looks like a heartbeat monitor, maybe at the doctor's or something like that. So 6 to X and then X to 8. Then you'll cross multiply. That'll be X squared is 48. To get rid of a square, you square root both sides. And I don't think 48 is a perfect square. It's pretty close to, if it was 49, we'd say it's 7, but not quite. So go ahead and break it down. That's 6, 8, you could go 3, 2, 2, 4, and then the 4 you can go 2 and 2. When you got two pairs, you're going to write 2 times 2 outside the radical, and then that one leftover piece inside. So that'll be 4 square root of 3. And then if you need the decimal, I'll go ahead and do both there. The decimal for it is 6.93, approximately right there. And I'm just rounding out the two decimals. They didn't really tell us what to round to, or whatever, so I'm just going with that right there. Okay, 46, we'll use both heartbeat and boomerang. So if we want to use, or if we want to go find x first here, that's on the outside, that's a leg. So start with your hypotenuse right here. And then all of that to x right there, that's, what is that, 30? 30 to x, and then come back around, x to 6. That'll be x squared. I think that'll be 6 times 3 is 18, so I believe that'll be 180. And then we can square root both sides there, and then we'll break down the 180. I can go 18, 10, you can go 2 and 5 there. 18, I guess you can go 9 and 2, and then you can go 3 and 3. Got a pair of 3s and a pair of 2s, so that'll get you 2 times 3 is 6, and then you'll have the leftover 5. Then if you want your decimal approximation, the square root of 180 is going to be about 13.4. 13.42, I guess, if you were to round properly. So that's the boomerang right there. The heartbeat you're going to use here for y. Usually use the heartbeat for altitudes. It's a little bit sideways here, but that's okay. We can go 6 to y, and then come back this way here, y to 24. And then you cross multiply. Y times a y is a y squared, anytime you see that. And then 6 times 24 is 144. And actually, that's a perfect square. Usually I'd go find the decimal first, because then you can go and determine if it's a perfect square. If you do square root of 144, it actually comes out to a clean 12, which means you don't have to do the thing where you break down the numbers. You can. You're just not going to have anything left over. So that one would be 12 right there. Okay, and then last one here on 47. This one's pretty similar, I guess, to 46, where you're going to need to use the heartbeat there to find y, or boomerang on the outside there to find x. So I'll go ahead and find x here first. That'll be 30 to x right there, because you're adding the 21 and 9 right there. And once again, with the boomerang, you always start with the hypotenuse. Always start with the hypotenuse of the big triangle there. So 30 to x, and then come back around, x to 9. That should get us x squared. 3 times 9 is 27, so that should be 270. And then square root both of those. I don't think 270 is a perfect square, so I'll break it down. I'm going to go 27, 10. Let's go 9, 3, 3, 3, 2, and 5 for the 10. And actually, you only got one pair right here. You only got a pair of 3s. And then you got a 3, 2, and a 5 left over. You will multiply all those together. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. So 3 square root of 30. All right, and then to finish this up here, we'll do heartbeat there in the middle, 21 to y. And then go back the other way, y to 9. That'll be y squared, 9 times 21. Use a calculator for that one. 189. Okay, and then I don't think that's a perfect square. 89. Nope, it's roughly about 13.7. So we'll break it down. We can square root both of these here. That'd be, I guess let's go 21, 9. You can go 7, 3, 3, and 3. That'll be 3, and then multiply the 7 and 3 back together, 3 root 21. And actually, I forgot to go back and get the decimals here on both of these here, so let me go and do that. This one was 13.74. The square root of 270 is about 16.43. So if they ask for simplest radical form, your answer should have a radical. If they ask for exact form, it should have a radical here. Let me label one of these here. This is exact or simplest radical. This next one here with the decimal is called the approximate. I think that's, whatever. I That's only one P, maybe two P's there. That's approximate, or sometimes they might say round your answer right there. So just make sure you can differentiate those and you'll be good.